You're about to watch a live stream from our Facebook group. It's a club where we pretty much just talk about board games all day long. And every week we give away free board games to people in the club. So if you're interested in coming to hang out with us, click the link in the description below. Hope to see you there. So anyway, Board Game Club, I hope everybody tuned in. I did a little announcement not too long ago, maybe like half an hour ago. I was like, hey, maybe I should tell people what time this is going to happen. So anyway, if you're watching, feel free to jump in the chat. I'm going to check that periodically. But we got James Staley from Tin Robot Games, and he's got a new game on Kickstarter, Tanks But No Thanks. Now, let me see if I can actually pull you in here. There we go. Okay, I can see you. You can see me, right? You can't
I can see you.
Okay, very good.
Thumbnail of myself. So yeah, I have. I see what is behind me. So we're good. Yeah.
Okay, I see you got your Tanks But No Thanks. What is that? Is that a box or is that a poster in the background?
It's actually a poster. We had a kickoff party last night at Perplexity Games. A small group of 20 of us, and I thought, you know what, it'd be good to have some posters made up. So we had a couple made up. We left one there. It's framed on the wall, kind of a little badge of honor, so a little QR code so they can scan it, and if people want to pledge, they can scan right there at the game shop. But yeah, so it's a little poster behind us, and then the actual game is right here.
Tanks But No Thanks. That's some good artwork too. You didn't go cheap on the artwork.
No, so the artwork on this was first of all, you know, this entire process has been kind of new for me. I do have some proficiency in using Illustrator and Photoshop and so forth, but you know, relied heavily on stock photography. I've got a colleague. Quick little shout out to Jay Bassan on the West Coast. He's a master of art, and so he gave me some guidance as I was going along, kind of a little bit of a guiding hand. But yeah, we're really happy with where we landed on the box. This is actually a manufacturing sample, so this is actually what you'll get when we complete this campaign and we start shipping. Put a lot of effort behind quality, so we've got like a matte lamp finish on it. When you open up the box, you've got the graphics on the side of the inner.
Nice.
Wanted to have it very simple on, actually, I'm going to flip this upside down. I don't want to dump pieces all over the place, but on the back, one thing that I find when you're browsing stores is you get like a snippet of a game, but for me, because the rules weren't super complex, we put the rules right on the back of the box. So people at store level, because it's shrink wrap, they can't open it. They can flip it over, look at it, and say, oh, this is how I play the game. Okay, this is something that would work for me. So, and then on the inside, we get our instruction sheet. We have different layouts depending on how many people play the game.
Okay. And people watching should be paying attention because you're giving away a copy of this to someone in the group, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
So what we're going to do is when the campaign completes, right from our first run in manufacturing, that'll be one of the first ones that goes out is to the winner of this. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening and being part of this contest. God forbid, if there's any delays whatsoever, we'll send you one of our manufacturing samples. So we have 4 complete samples right here. We'll give you one of these if there's any kind of delay at all. We don't anticipate any delays, but you never know. Things sometimes happen. When you go on the inside of the box, we made sure that there's cutouts to hold the pieces in nice
organization.
I don't know if you guys, I'm going to go a little bit more, but without spilling it. One thing that we find at our house, and I don't know how it is at your house, if you have a stack of sandwich bags, but that seems to be a staple in our household for any game. It's always pieces are going in the sandwich bags to keep everything separated. So
yeah, so I really like seeing this because you know, it really looks like you didn't go cheap on the components and the box and the organization. And when you think of a game that a lot of people love, that game that I love, Terraforming Mars, I don't know if you've played it.
I haven't played it.
Yeah, but it was pretty close to the Board Game Geek #1. You know, it's probably in the top 5 or so.
Sure.
And great game, people love it. Very flimsy components. Yeah, and I don't think this was a first-time game creator either. So that is a bit of a turnoff. So it's good to see that you went a little extra.
Yeah, I have memories from when I was a kid. There was a game we used to play called Stock Ticker. I don't know if you remember that.
Don't know that one.
It's an oldie. That one's, I think, from the 70s actually. And it was a hand-me-down, from a few different generations, and the pieces were everywhere. Like, I'm not even sure if we were playing the game properly. There's probably half the pieces missing just because there was no organization whatsoever. So
Yep.
for me, that was really important to make sure not only is the box have a good quality to it when people see it on the store shelf, but wanted to have it easy to put away and organized. So when you pull it back out, you can keep your components, in fairly good working order. We even left. Well, before I get there, I'll even talk about the tanks themselves. We are including an extra tank. So although you only need 5 tanks to play the game, and I'll bring a little closer there, we actually include a 6th tank of every color, just because you never know. Dog eats one, or you lose one.
Right.
Got an extra tank there for people in case they lose it. Again, it's just our little kind of gift to the purchasers of the game. And then we got another little pocket right here that is in advance of the expansion pack. So if you do get the expansion pack, you got somewhere to put it in.
Nice.
I know with Settlers, I know there's a lot of Settlers fans as part of your group.
Yep.
Like all of us, we've got, the different expansion packs. Game night comes over and we're pulling out, 3 different boxes. Everything's not really contained into one box. So that was important for us as well, as make sure everything was kind of contained into one box. So yeah, we're pretty happy with where we landed with it. The board itself is
let's take a look at the game itself and the gameplay, and then if you don't mind, I wanted to ask a little bit about your story and kind of the Kickstarter business side of it too, because I know a lot of people in the club are interested in that. A lot of people kind of have their own ideas. I know I'm interested in eventually kickstarting something myself, so all this stuff is really interesting to us too. But let's take a look at the game itself.
Yeah, so and let me preface this with this is my first time through on Kickstarter. So this is the very first launch I've done. So it's been a lot of learning for me along the way. But certainly, if anybody has questions, please, as we're going through the feed, type them in. I'll do my best to answer. I'm still got a lot more to learn, but there's been a lot of learnings along the way.
Well, you know what? Let me pause you for a second. I just took a look at the chat, and there are people in here. So let me switch over. Let me see if I did this right. Hopefully, yep. Okay, there's a feed, and you can't really see this right now, but let me scroll up here, and it looks like we've got Heather Regina saying hi. We got Keith Cantrell, Josie Danny. We got Sean Chrissy Moore. We got. Yeah, I think that's everybody here. People saying, yes, they really like the storage, so that's good. Unfortunately, you can't see the chat right now unless you could hop in the live stream, but I don't know if that'll mess up your system.
Yeah, I didn't want to get any kind of echo effect, but if there's a question, please relay it, and more than happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Sure. Okay, so I'll just come back periodically to the chat. So let's take another look at the game here.
So I'm going to set up the game kind of off the side, and I'll angle the camera so people can see it. But maybe I'll talk a little bit about the story as I start setting this up. So this whole idea, and this is not just even my story. This is literally everyone's story. The number of times I've gone to a game shop and I'm demoing this game with someone, there's always at least one person will say, I had an idea for a game like 10 years ago, and and I said, well, what happened to it? And they said, well, I just never did anything with it. I had this great idea. And my answer is always the same, is that, it doesn't take a lot of money really to at least get a prototype made. I'm going to show this right here, which is literally what I created 24 years ago. It's a cookie sheet. So at
could you because of the way the camera, I had to crop it. Yeah, do it a little more that way towards your left. There you go. Yeah, so that is just a cookie sheet. What'd you do? Spray paint that?
Yeah. So I spray painted it. The reason I had the rails on it is I started cutting myself because I had to cut the edge off the cookie sheet. So I tacked those down. There was little magnets that I took out of earphones and glued to the bottom of these tacks. So the tacks represented tanks.
You're resourceful.
Yeah, but it's more so that I didn't lose the pieces, right? Because again, there was no box, so just to have everything there. Everybody's got these on their fridge from your local pizza shop. These little pizza shop magnets.
Oh, you just cut them up with a scissor, huh?
Yeah, and then at the time it was on my 386 computers, so I made the graphics, I think, using MS Paint at the time.
So how old were you when you made this little prototype here?
I get told I have a young face. I'm actually 44 right now.
Okay.
And so I made this when I was roughly 19 years old, so my first year of university.
Oh, okay.
It was for two purposes. One is I'd always kind of, everyone's got their, everyone does the house rules on Monopoly, right? So the free parking, you got your stash of cash in the center.
Don't get me started on house rules and Monopoly. Let's just move on.
Risk. We used to play Risk, and we had we create like a nuclear option to like wipe out like a number of properties. And so I was always adapting games when I was a kid. When I got to university, I had this idea that, and I think at the time it was a cross between Chinese checkers, and I was playing video games with tank battles. I thought, wow, would it be kind of cool to have a board game where I could kind of combine the idea of a tank battle into the same kind of idea as Chinese checkers. So Chinese checkers where you can actually attack people.
Right, because Chinese checkers, I don't think I've ever really played a game because, like, for me growing up, it's just too abstract. It's like you just have some marbles and you don't really know what's going on. But if you turn them into tanks, I'd be like, fine, I'm in. Let's play.
Yeah. Anytime you can shoot stuff, people are like, yeah, I'm in. Let me just shoot something, right?
A good theme makes up for a lot of shortcomings in mechanics, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, at the time I created the game, and my youngest brother, and we come from a family of 5, so a lot of siblings, and my youngest brother at the time was 9. So with my buddies at university over beers, and we'd cook up fries. We had a little deep fryer in our dorm room. We make up fries, and we have nights where we just play games. And then on weekends I go home and I bring this and I play with my younger brother because I needed something I could play with him being younger, where it was complicated enough that he could start learning strategy and tactics, but not, too complicated that it was over his head.
Right.
He was already playing chess at the time. I've played chess since I was 6. So as a family, we always gravitated more towards kind of the classic kind of strategy games, right? So on our shelf, always had Risk, Monopoly, Othello, checkers. Chinese checkers was basically it's a 6-man game of checkers, right? So you're coming at different angles. So
all the classics.
Yeah, all the classics. Yeah. So that's where we went with this. And then I had I was taking actually physics in school, and I just didn't like the lab work. And I said, I gotta change my degree. My family's in business. I'm gonna get into business. So I was looking for a major, and I said, I think I'm going to take marketing because they got these games. And this is one of, I had made about 3 different games. I thought, wow, it'd be kind of neat to learn how to market these. What if I could market these games? Well, I learned very quickly in this business course was that the kind of industry that I was looking at, the game industry, I was coming in at the wrong time when it was nosediving, right? So gaming, this is late 90s, so gaming consoles are starting to emerge. Technology with the internet starting to come out, so people spending a lot of time online. And then we started seeing a lot of the gaming companies consolidate. So you had, a few giants. And I remember that it really dawned on me the one day I was in class, and I think it was my 3rd year, and they're talking about, a classic business model of creating a product that you're going to sell. And it really comes down to 2 key things. One is building what's called household penetration. So the number of households that are going to buy your product, say whatever the widget is. And then the number of times those households then repeat. Those 2 things multiplied by each other can usually give you your projection for your sales in the marketplace. Well, that's great if it's consumable, right? So if you're selling like a pack of gum and I can convince you to buy a certain brand of gum and you like that gum, you're just going to keep coming back and buying that pack of gum.
Right. Laundry detergent, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But a board game, I spend a lot of money and time and energy to try to get somebody to buy a board game. Once you've bought it, you're out. Right now, it's not a consumable. It's not like you're going to come back every week and keep buying. So now that same amount of money's got to be spent to get another person and another person. And the business model I looked at it, I said, wow, this is never going to happen in a million years. So I shelved it. And so I graduated and I got into the food industry and, had built a business career. And it was approximately, I guess it was around February of last year, maybe the end of January of this year. My younger brother, who's now in his 30s, right, and is about to get married, and he's talking about how his brother-in-law just got this game on Kickstarter. I'm like, wow, that sounds exciting. When can we play it? Because we're always going over his house and doing game nights. Oh, no, he doesn't get it until next year. I said, next year.
What?
So he's pledging now, but he's not going to get it till like the following fall. He had pledged in last November, December.
Right, pretty typical.
It's pretty typical.
Yeah. For Kickstarter?
Yeah, for Kickstarter. And then he goes, whatever happened to that tanks game we used to play? And I said, you know what? I don't even know if I still have that game. So that night I went home. I'm going through my basement, literally under the stairs in my basement, clawing through just Christmas decorations and God
spider webs and
everything. That's just where everything gets stuff that you never want to see for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And I found the game. I found the prototype, and I pulled it out, and I said, well, I want to get some game shops to try this game, but I want to see if there's something here before I even attempted to take it to something like a Kickstarter. So I created a prototype that was close to the modern to this newer board. Simple graphics. Took a box, painted it red, stuck this on the inside. And this is kind of the advice I would give to anybody listening right now that says, I don't have the money to create a prototype, or I don't have the money to do it, or I went to my local craft shop, and I went to Home Depot, right? So Home Depot, I got really thin MDF, gave them the measurements, they cut them into 4 squares for me. I took it home, put Gorilla Tape on it to hold it together. And I created a 4-panel folding. Right?
So is that just printed out on paper?
I printed it on paper and glued it on. Painted the board, glued it on. So I had a board.
Simple enough.
What's that?
Simple enough.
Yeah, simple enough. And then I went and sourced some miniature tanks. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Went and got spray paint, created the 4 different colors. I found some glass beads at a local craft store, and I painted them to make my bunkers. And the flags, this took me a little bit longer. I got little pieces of wood with little pegs and cut out little flags that I colored and made little bases.
And I'd imagine if you were making things like meeples or something like that, there's all sorts of websites that'll sell you little individual pieces of food, meeples, castle, all sorts of things, probably tanks and stuff too.
Yep.
And so really there is no excuse. And then with 3D printing, anything, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, and I know 3D print, and I've talked to some people that, I got to find a buddy at the 3D printer, or you can go with a third-party service, but you don't have to, right? I guess the point is
right.
You don't even have to go to that point. Like literally, you can do this for less than $20, create a game. Print out cards, you can do that on a printer. Just print it on a thicker paper so that go to your local print shop and they'll print your stuff out on local paper. You're talking scissors and cutting things to make we can make decks of cards and everything. So in this day and age, there really is, as you said, no excuse.
Yeah.
To pursue, what you want to create or your game.
So let me throw out to the chat, anyone who's watching this. A few more people came in. Rebecca Morrissey, Josie Danny Trujillo. Keith had to go, but he's really excited to check the game out. Jill, Robbie Reinhardt, Kristen Ellis. Anybody who's in here, if you got any question for James, just let us know, and we'll get them answered. So a lot of people like the organization. I see some people like hearing the backstory. So far, they're liking what they're seeing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So the tanks, but no thanks. I'm going to angle the camera in just 1 second here. I did a quick little setup of the board. The board can you can play 2-2. Let me know if you can see that, Bobby. I'm not sure if you can. Do
a little more towards your left. I just have it cropped a little weird so we can both fit on the screen. A little more.
This over here.
Yeah, if you could tilt it down a little bit. Tilt the camera down.
There we go.
Yeah, and if you could tilt it a little more towards your left, that'd be perfect. There we go.
There we go. Did it lose yet?
We got to come up a little bit. There we go. Right there.
All right. So this is tanks, but no thanks. So the idea behind the game is fairly simple. Just be the last battalion standing. So you want to take out your other players before they take you out. If you're the last one on the board, you've won the game. Now, the kind of alliance we're going for is more that kind of classic strategy game, right? So similar to, I've heard people say there's elements of chess in here in terms of strategy. I've heard some people say there's a bit of a checkers feel. The Chinese checkers is a great comment. People say, it's got a bit of a Chinese checkers feel to it. I've had other people say, I haven't really played a game like this before. This it's kind of different. I can't really kind of peg down exactly a good analog to it. Yeah, your 4 colors, 4 different players. I call it close combat because between the edge of the board and the center is only 6 squares. So the mechanics of the game is turn-based. On your turn, you choose, am I going to move? In which case, you use the green dice. The reason we did that is sometimes people would roll and they say, oh, no, I meant to shoot. So
right.
You roll the green dice, you're committed. And then if you roll the red dice, you're shooting. So if you choose to move on your turn, you roll the green dice. In this case, I rolled a 5. You can split that move across your tanks, right? So if I take the black tank here, for instance, that tank, if it was in the center of the board, could literally move to any of the squares around the square it currently occupies. It can move on angles, forward, backward, side to side. So if I had a 5, I can move one tank 1, 2. I can move this one back 3, 4, and I can move this tank 1. Or if I wanted, I could have one tank just move all 5 spaces. It's just really up to you how you, based on your strategy, how you want to break up that particular move. Now, if you choose to, and you can't transit through an occupied square. So you can't go through your own base. You can't go through a square that's occupied by your own tank or another tank. You have to go around.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you choose to shoot on your turn, you can only shoot, only one tank can shoot at a time. So I say, okay, this turn I'm going to shoot. I'm going to allocate this tank, and then you have to declare what you're going to shoot. You can shoot either a tank or you can shoot a base. One hit is a kill. So if I hit the tank's off the board. If I hit the base is off the board. Now, what I should have said at the beginning is if all your bases are destroyed, you're immediately out of the game. If all your tanks are destroyed, you're immediately out of the game. So it's not like you can lose all your bases and still go with your tanks. If your bases are gone, you're out of the game. So there's a strategy of also having to defend. So while you go on attack, you're still having to defend because someone can sneak in the back door and take your bases out on you. Now,
yeah, I could see, especially if there's 3 or 4 people playing, where there might be an issue of turtling a little bit. You know, maybe just creeping out a little bit, but not wanting to expose yourself and waiting for someone else to sort of make a wrong move or get impatient. Do you find that a lot?
Yeah, so we put some mechanics in there to fight against that. One thing is you have to either move or shoot, and you can only shoot if you have a viable target. So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to shoot and roll the red dice. Oh, I missed. I didn't really shoot at anybody. You have to have a viable target. Especially when you have 4 people playing, the people that turtle usually get taken out fairly quickly. Because you'll have somebody come around the back door and they'll attack them. Likewise, you can only camp so long, right? So because you have such a close proximity to all the players on the game, you really got 3 people coming at you at the same time.
Right.
Which can be difficult, especially if it's someone that's, as you said, just trying to turtle or camp. Now, if you decide you want to shoot, for instance, it's the number of squares you have or greater. So if I got this tank right here that's red and it's 1, 2, it's 3 squares away. If I roll the dice, if I roll a 3, 4, 5, or 6, I've hit that tank.
So you declare your target before you roll.
That's right. Declare the target. I'm going to target that guy there. That's 3 squares away. I roll the dice. As long as I roll 3 or higher, I've hit that tank. Now, if there's a tank behind him, that tank is safe because you can only take out 1 target at a time. Likewise, you can't shoot. The reason we have these brown pieces here, these bunkers, is that's to, number 1, keep you from annihilating each other immediately as soon as the game begins. Mm-hmm. So it forces you to go around them. You can't transit through. You can't shoot through them either.
So there's a line of sight. You
got a line of sight. So when you shoot, you can only shoot in a straight line. So a straight diagonals, but you can't like curve your bullet. So you can't say, okay, my bullet's going to go 3 ahead and then 2 over. It's direct line of sight. The move dice, though, you can split that up however you want, go any particular direction you want.
All right, pretty simple rules.
That's the basic mechanics of the game. We have these little kill slots along the side of the board that we added when we went to production of the manufacturing samples. Just an easy way for people to keep track of their kills. So every time they take somebody off the board, they can put the pieces there to keep track of who they killed. Our friend Vicky yesterday at the party, she has played this game, oh, God, probably at least 10 times. And she was just beside herself because she finally won a game. And the carnage that was in front of her is like she decided that's a game. She's just going to take everybody out because she had, I think she had at least 10 pieces in front of her, which was pretty crazy.
it was like an ode to humanity kind of game, and she's just covered in blood at the end of it.
Exactly. Yeah, to get
Nice.
some wiping blood on her face and so forth. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So that's the basic mechanics of the game. Another thing that we've done is, and this is kind of a new addition when we decided, okay, we're going to take this to Kickstarter, was we wanted to have the extra little, stretch target. So if people hit a target, if we hit our base target, how can we get people to tell their friends and get other people to pledge? So we said, okay, let's come up with some stretch targets. And on that note, it's very simple. We have one pledge level. So, I researched a lot of the games, and some of them are very complicated. The number of levels, and you're looking at the page, and you're like, okay, what am I don't even know what I'm getting for what I'm pledging. One is very simple. $39 Canadian, which I think is like 30 US. You get a copy of the game. Any stretch target we hit, you automatically get.
Okay, so yeah, let's go over the stretch targets. Let's go over that in a little bit. I want to talk about your Kickstarter specifically. I got a lot of questions about that, but first let me just...
One quick thing, if I may.
Okay, yes.
Which is the expansion pack. So the first level of stretch target is this expansion pack we've added. What the expansion pack is, it comes with 16 cards. You get 8 bonus power cards, and you get 8 mission cards.
So these are not in the base game?
They're not in the base game. This is an add-on. Even last night when we were playing at the party, we had 4 games going at one time. There were people that said, you know what, I just like the base game. I like the strategy. I don't want to do with the expansion pack. Other people are like, give me the expansion pack. I love the added thrill it brings in. What these cards are is they're all top secret. You shuffle them at the beginning of the game. Everybody gets one of each, and you don't show the other people. Now, your bonus powers are a one-time play. So you use it, that it's done. Every bonus power is different. And I'll give you an example. This one, here's one that's it's called air support. So if you have this card, you can both roll your move dice and your shoot dice on the same turn. It's the only way you're rolling 2 dice in one turn. So if you think, oh gosh, I got to get in there, and that guy's hunkered down, camping, for instance, beside his bases, I'm going to present this card at the beginning of my turn. I'll roll a dice. I'm going to move my tank right beside his base, and then I'm going to fire and take his base out immediately.
I guess that once you're familiar with these cards, that probably adds an extra level of paranoia. Like, oh man, does this guy have air support or what?
It does, actually. It's funny because people around the table are like, I bet you he's got, there's another one we have that's called a Last Stand, which is a cool card where it's the only time that if you lose all your bases, you can stay in the game with your tanks. So
nice.
Yeah, if you see guys like, okay, he's not really protecting his bases, it's like, okay, he's got the Last Stand card. Okay, let's start targeting his tanks to keep getting too strong. So you have a lot of kind of counterattack strategies that people start putting in place. Your top secret mission cards allow you to achieve. It's another way you can win the game. So if the first way is to eliminate everybody. Your last one standing can win the game. The other way is if you achieve your mission. Present the card after you've hit your mission, it's an automatic win. So for instance, one is eliminate 6 enemy tanks. Sounds easy. It's tough. When you got 3 people gunning for you to take out 6 tanks is not easy. But if you can do that, you present the card in, and it's an automatic win.
Nice. So this kind of reminds me a little bit of Santorini, where if you've played that, where the base game is, fairly simple, but a lot of fun, very strategic, very like positional. And that's all fine and good. And then the advanced version with the God powers, it's like, oh wow, it just like opens up this whole other game where, especially once you get experienced people, then they're trying to anticipate what you're going to do because they're so familiar with the extra powers, or in this case with the missions and that sort of thing. It probably really like goes another level deeper. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that was kind of the intent behind the whole thing, is that, how can we stretch out the longevity of this game? So how can I ensure that, and everybody goes through it, you get to the point where your games closet or your game shelf is spilling over. And we just did this past summer. We had a flood in our house, so we lost a few of our games. We got rid of one of our shelves, so we just have one huge shelf now, but we used to have 2. So we just started going through, and any games we hadn't played, kind of the rule was if we haven't played that game in 5 years, maybe we can donate it or get rid of it. So how do I make sure this game stays on the shelf? Many years to go, or if somebody's got a cottage or a trailer that they go to, a game that they can have there for the kids to play or the family to play on certain evenings. So that was the goal behind it, and then extending the life of that game to bring another little level of interest to it. So if someone's feels like, okay, they've mastered the game. Okay, let's add another element in there to give it a little bit of a twist for to bring fresh life into it.
Yeah, well, you've been playing it for 25 years, so it must have some sort of longevity, right? Let me go to the chat because a bunch of more people came in.
Please.
We got Tim giving a thumbs up. Morgan Williams says,
Tim.
cool game. Josie Danny says she's got a husband that's looking to start a game, saying, I think maybe a game with tanks himself. Sean Christy Moore says, thanks for explaining it to us. I don't know. You think we should block this guy?
Bum, bum, bum.
I know. Thanks for the puns, guys. Eric Walker is in here. He says, are the tanks a particular faction, like Russian models and German models, or are they all the same?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. There are other tank games out there that are a little more complicated. And for instance, there's one that was Tank Chess that was on Kickstarter about half a year ago. Mm-hmm. And for me, I wanted to stay true to the game as it was created 24 years ago. So for me, it was about simplicity and not overcomplicating it with different tank types or having different tank powers. Really, every tank is the exact same thing. There's no real advantage coming into the game. One of the things that some people complain, for instance, with like Settlers of Catan, right, is, based on the placement. Wow, if I'm not either last or first in the roll, I got the crap placement, and now I'm fighting against the odds that are already stacked against me at the beginning of the game.
No one wants to be third in Catan.
Yeah, no one does, right? So we really want to have an equal playing field for this one. So we try to go with designs that were not, really specific to any particular tank. These are just tanks, right? So I hope that answers the question.
Maybe next Kickstarter will be the expansion pack if demand seems to want it.
You know what? We've got plans even for extensions of this one. One thing that potentially we have in the works, if we come back for a deluxe version, would be a 6-person hexagon version.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
then it would really be like Chinese checkers, right?
Yeah, well, it would be maximum carnage. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let me just shout out to Roxy Radish who jumped in, and Russ Brooks, and Tim Aberley says that he likes the price point. And Sean's making fun of me for bringing up Santorini. Look, I bring it up a lot. I got a 5-year-old. He likes to play it. I like to play it. You know what? So sue me.
I'll throw it out there. Battleship. I mean, Battleship is one of the simplest games ever. And
I'll have to try that one. I hear about that one in the club a lot.
I love it. It's a good one for young kids, but also adults too. If you're just looking for something light and fun, that's kind of for tin rollback games. We'll keep coming with other games in the future. Our kind of part of the market we want to carve out are games that are not much longer than an hour. This game here will last anywhere from a half hour to an hour, depending on how many thinkers you have in the game, or if you have somebody new playing and you just have to try to explain the game as you go. But really, this game won't go past an hour. The typical game is 30, 40 minutes. And that's kind of our wheelhouse. That's the kind of games that, now being a parent myself and, you're busy with life. I remember we used to have a game, Samurai Swords, which one of its incarnations was called Shogun. That's a 5-hour game, right?
Yeah.
5-hour game. And I just don't have the time for it. And there's a lot of parents out there that don't have the time to spend that much on a game. So
yeah, I know all about that. So let me ask you a few questions about the Kickstarter, because this is, as I said, really interesting to a lot of us in the group. Let me see if I could switch over. Okay, so I did a really bad job cropping your head, or maybe you moved. Okay. In any case, I'm looking at most of your head, and I really got to figure out this cropping thing. You know what?
Head do you lose, the bottom half or the top half?
Let me just lose your head here because it's blocking the Kickstarter anyway. I'll bring you back.
Okay.
But I'm looking at the Kickstarter page itself. And I'll put a link. I already put it in the group the past few days, but I'll put it in this chat too.
Thanks, guys.
So everyone can check it out. But let me hop over here and scroll down. So I see we got a video. So let's talk about your pledge level or your pledge goal here.
Sure.
10,000 Canadian, right? For me, it's showing up in U.S. dollars. I guess that switched over once I did a pledge. So what made you decide $10,000, 10,000 Canadian,
Yeah, it's a great.
for your goal?
A lot of this came down to just research. You know, the games that I saw fail the most were people that are, thinking, oh, I'm gonna strike it rich. I'm gonna put this game on Kickstarter and ask for, 60, $80,000, and they would fall short. And the ones that were successful were the ones that are saying, when I get to retail at some point, that's when I will make money on the game. But really, this Kickstarter environment is to help me get it off the ground, right? To get it past the finish line. So for me, we'd already done all the development up front. As you saw, the manufacturing samples are real samples. This is exactly what the game will look like when it ships. For me, it was really, what do I absolutely, at the very least, need to get this thing going? And it was really based on the minimum production run. So even at that 10,000 doesn't cover off the minimum production run, but we had funds we had set aside to go with that to cover off our minimum production run. That for us was more important to have a successful campaign, get people excited about it, to say, yeah, this is something that's actually going to be in my hands. Because we're so far along in the development process, as I said, some people may receive this game even in December this year. So
Oh, wow.
most people, it'll probably be shipping in January, some other countries outside of North America into February. But for me, it was critical that this got into people's hands fast. It's not a long wait to get this game. You're going to get this game fairly quickly. So really that pledge level is just to help us with the actual first run. Like the plant is literally on standby, ready to go. And they start production as soon as we say go.
So I've often wondered this. So something like a $10,000 pledge level, 50,000, whatever it is. What does the game creator end up with? And I don't know if you want to go into personal
no problem
finances, too specifically, but like just in ballpark terms, like percentage, something like, is it something where you'll just break even?
It's pretty straightforward actually. So Kickstarter takes 5% of everything raised, right? So if we raise $10,000, you either get all or nothing. So the day that after the 30 days ends, and they literally clock you right to the minute so the minute it launched, 30 days to the minute later, the campaign closes. If you hit your target, they take 5% off, and then it takes about 6 weeks for you to get the cash. If you don't, you get nothing, absolutely nothing. Right. No one's card gets hit. So a lot of people are kind of saying, oh, I don't know if I want to pledge, or maybe I'll pledge when I have some funds available. Just a word out to there, and I had to say this to a lot of my friends and family, guys, your card doesn't get hit until if and when the campaign actually closes. So you've got 30 days before, to save up that $30 for the campaign. There's also something called your back end. So you can either manage the back end on your own, which is a survey that goes out to collect people's information to find out, okay, what's your mailing address? What are some details? Some Kickstarter campaigns maybe have a little add-on. So it kind of just cleans up the add-on of the kind of details you want to get at the end off people before you're ready to ship the game. Most backers that I've seen from my research go with a back-end pledge manager. So there's one actually called Pledge Manager, which is the one that I'm having to use for this campaign. Backer Kit is another one, a very good one as well. And what they do is they'll take, it depends, they both have different pricing models. The one will take a certain, I think it's like 50 cents a unit per pledge, for instance, that's made after the campaign closes. And then one of them will actually take another 2% of your total funds raised. So I don't want to point at one or the other one, which one, but I went with the one that didn't charge 2%. And their goal is really to make that process as clean, as simple as possible for the pledgers, right? So that you guys, it's a painless process for you. On average, Kickstarter warns you that there's about 10% of the pledges will either A, have a card that expires by the time the pledge goes through, or the card was incorrectly put in. So your back-end pledge management group help just get that cleaned up to get the proper billing information to make sure that you can actually collect your funds. So that's kind of how that back end works. In terms of actually money, in the case of mine, I mean, this 10,000 doesn't cover off a minimal production run. So I make zero even when we hit our target on this, but it allows us to get a production run done all the backers will get their copies of the game, and then we'll have enough of an inventory left over that over time we can sell through Amazon or on, through different distributors and so forth. And that's when we'll recoup our money and hopefully turn a profit.
Okay. So is that typical from your research for Kickstarters, that the Kickstarter itself, even if it goes, well over funding, that's not necessarily money that's going in someone's pocket for a board game, because it's a physical product that needs to be shipped somewhere?
Yeah, it's a bit of a split. So I've seen, and I don't know which one is more successful. I've seen some campaigns where, the incremental cost at those higher stretch target levels is really insignificant. So it goes from being a break even to now a profitable. So they overshoot their target, it becomes profitable from Kickstarter.
It's like an economy of scales kind of
economy of scale,
situation.
exactly. So you, instead of cranking out 1,000 units, maybe you're cranking out 10,000 units, for instance. In my case, we made the decision to take each of those, and people said, why have you had the certain stretch targets in that order? And the reason we put them in the order we have is things like dies and molds are very expensive. So I've structured in a way that as certain levels kick in, those funds can then be allocated to running a mold. So for instance, on this campaign, if we're blessed with overshooting our target, and obviously that's what we're trying to do, overshoot our target, as soon as we have an indication, even before the campaign closes, that we're going to hit a certain target, we contact the plant right away and say, start working on the molds. So that way, again, for me, it's with speed to getting it in your hands. So I don't want this thing to drag out for 9-10 months. We want within 3 months people to be playing this game.
Nice. Let's see what else. I have a few other questions here. So you talked about some of your stretch goals. Let me go back to the other screen and kind of scroll down here. So there's your one price target, $39 Canadian. You said it's around $30 US.
Yep.
And let's see, you got everything, all the pictures, you got the gameplay video.
Summary of the stretch targets, if you don't mind. So
sure, I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah, so $30 for people listening gets you the game as we just showed. If we hit the $15,000, so you get that plus any stretch target. So then if we hit 15,000, everybody gets a copy of the game, plus they'll get, for instance, the expansion pack. We then add more cards to the expansion pack up to the next couple levels. Our dice, we go from being just these type of dice to then having actually move and shoot dice. So
I like the custom dice because you could see like the treads or the target.
Exactly.
That's nice.
Yeah, I want to make it kind of neat. And again, this is another example where the actual cost of the dice difference isn't a lot. It's the actual setup of the molds, which is what kills you. And you have to spread that now over the number of units you're producing, right? So even a mold cost could be $2,000. Well, that now spread over, say, 256 backers or maybe 500 backers per unit, it still jacks up the cost quite significantly. We then get into kind of halfway down to the $35,000 level. This is where I get super excited because I personally want this. We've got these metal tank hedgehogs. So if anybody's seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, when they're coming up the beach, and they've got those big metal kind of cross pieces, they're actually called hedgehogs. And so we've had those already, the modeling has already been done for them. So now we just need the molds. And what we'll do is we'll turn the meeple bunkers, which you can see here, into actual tank hedgehogs. So if you go on the pledge page, you'll actually see a 3-dimensional turning image of that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, we get up to the $40,000 level. Instead of meeple bases, which are these guys, we go up to a custom formed plastic tank hangers. And it's actually modeled after an actual tank hanger. Nice. And then at kind of the top level, all tanks go metal, and they go a little bit larger as well. So then you got some weight and some heavy substance to the game as well. So we're absolutely excited. That's actually an exclusive for Kickstarter because the cost for us is significant. It has a lot to the game. But for me, it's a reward. Hey, you know what? If we're going to get there, we're going to get there together. And I want to, reward the people that are there to help me get there. So we'll do the metal tanks. But after that, when we go to retail, there'll never be metal tanks. There'll be plastic tanks at retail. So this is an exclusive just for Kickstarter. which is something kind of special. Nothing we wanted to be is something special for the Kickstarter people.
Yeah, and I think your plan here, I'm imagining, is not just to end your board game career with this game, but potentially take the people that buy your game and then bring them to future games and build a sort of relationship and community with them. So I think they appreciate things like that.
Exactly. No, thank you.
So, can you talk a little bit about what you've done for the marketing? Because you're a marketing guy, right? So,
Yeah. What's interesting is the marketing. My background is more brick and mortar marketing for, as I spent some time in the food industry as well as now the supplements industry. This is a whole new, ball of wax for me, and I'm still learning every single day. It's a different approach to getting to your consumer, but I did again, and I would encourage a lot of people, if there's anybody looking to do their own game, please message me. I had some very kind people actually reach out to me pre-launch and even post-launch in the past couple of days saying, hey, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing that? There's a lot of people that will approach you saying, hey, pay me to do, and I'll give you a plug, or pay me and I'll put a blurb on my website, or pay me and I'll do a podcast. It's finding the diamonds in the rough like this, where you have a chance to actually, when you're working on a very limited budget, get exposure for it. So I would say anybody wants to message me afterwards, I'm more than happy to even send links and so forth. But some of the things we did, we're a little bit behind the ball when we launched this game. We were rushing to get it out and at least ship a couple of units before Christmas. If I was to do this all over again, I would have started it at least 6 months before that. Another thing I would have done differently is instead of putting some money into the Facebook drivers and the YouTube and the Twitter ads, which we're running right now, I would have put more money into manufacturing samples. Because if you get a sample in somebody's hand and they do a playthrough video, that is going to give you way more leverageability in people's minds than seeing an ad, for instance, because you want to be able to see it, you want to experience, you need the tactile elements of it. So the next wave we go through with the next game, for sure, we're going to do that. But for this one, predominantly Twitter, Facebook, YouTube ads. There are some news release sites that you can go on that usually let you do your first one for free. So we put out a news release. We did another one that was more of a paid news release on Newswire. That we received 8.2 million impressions on that, which was pretty exciting. The free one got us onto 100 different sites, mentioned the actual launch of the Kickstarter campaign, which is pretty exciting. And for us was to keep pushing our immediate network to pledge, especially in the first 48 hours, so that we can start getting some of that organic search up. Certainly Kickstarter, their algorithms will kick in if they make money, right? They're making 5% of whatever you raise. So they're more inclined to take a game that they are predicting or projecting to be successful and putting that on their landing page, or games you may be interested in, for instance, on their suggestions. So for us, that was important. We're at 22% on day 2, which is pretty exciting. Lots more work to go. Anybody listening that if you're interested in this game, please, we're asking you for your pledge. It would help us out a great deal. But a lot of word of mouth and a lot of time on the computer, emailing, reaching out to bloggers, reaching out to anybody and anyone in the gaming industry to see if you can get some exposure. It's a lot of work. I would say the outreach and the trying to build your following, that was way more work than creating the game itself. Way more work. The manufacturing was the easy part.
And the way that I look at it, and I don't know anything about marketing really, but this is kind of what I'm thinking, is that to build a community first, like almost like when you don't need it. Like I think the phrase is dig your well before you're thirsty.
Yeah.
That seems like it would probably be a good idea. Like I sort of created a community here. I don't have any plans to release a game anytime soon, but maybe one day, and then hopefully some of these people will help out, and it'll make sense. So I'm wondering what do you think of that as an approach for any of these people to sort of build like as far in advance as it can?
Yeah, build as far in advance as you can. Part of the challenge, and I read this as part of my initial research as well, is knockoffs, and that's one thing you do have to be careful with. So if you have a game that you've got to, especially if it's a great idea and something really novel. You want a lot of eyes to see it and build that following. But if it's not in a position where you'd be able to launch it within several months, the only caution would be you got to be careful somebody else potentially takes the idea, right? So,
especially if you have print and play versions easily available.
Yeah, so that was that for me, it was a conscious decision to go faster. I think that for the next one, for sure, we'll get at least 24 manufacturer samples made, and just reach out to every single playthrough blog you can find, because there's tons of them out there, and they're just looking for games to, like you and I, right? People love playing board games, and hey, let's try something new. And there's people that like to watch people play games, and so I think that if I was to give advice to anybody, start at least a year and a half in advance, and have your manufacturing samples at least in people's hands 6 months ahead. It is a very crowded market. That's one thing that I knew, that it would be crowded in terms of share of voice. I don't personally believe that you're necessarily competing for dollars. And I know that's probably going to be controversial, and some people may not agree with that. But, there's so many different types of games out there, and different people have different likes. So I think if somebody likes a game, and I know even in some of the games I've bought, we always go to games cafes, and we'll find these games that have been out of circulation, but there's a limited run. Empire is an example of that. It's playing. I'm like, wow, where can I get this game? Well, you can't, because it's out of circulation. So we finally found a copy and bought it. I think that the lesson is get it in people's hands, but when you're ready. I think this prototype over here through my network, so having people try the second generation prototype, got us enough information back that we can make our course corrections and adjustments that we're ready for the final game. But that's my opinion. Year and a half, I think, is kind of the sweet spot. But if you can get a following ahead of time, absolutely. Look at the guys in the game Trodor. I'm sure you've heard about Trodor. Everybody's heard of this game. It hit something like 1.5 million in backing. Well, they had a substantial social media following way before they even got into thinking about doing a board game. So they were able to leverage that very quickly to get the word out quite far and wide. So.
Yeah. Also, I'm trying to think of another example. Is it the Oatmeal? Did they do Exploding Kittens?
Yeah.
There's a web comment, and so when you have that built-in audience, then it seems like almost too easy. But hey, that's a good. It's a good tactic.
That'd be the caution. If anybody thinks, "Oh, it's Kickstarter, it looks easy," it's not easy.
Well, yeah, it's still a ton of work.
It's not easy. Yeah, absolutely not. And if you can get people to help you as part of your close group, that's helpful as well, right? So one person doing outreach to bloggers and so forth, it's a lot of work. If you can split that workload across a handful of people, you're hitting a lot more eyes and ears on your game to get your exposure out there.
Yeah, I think that would certainly be my biggest difficulty, of letting anybody else touch any part of it, just because of that kind of. But I think you got to let that go, right? If you want any amount of success, if you want any scalability.
Yeah, you got to be open to listen, and so the position I take is I'm always all ears. I always want to hear what people think and their ideas, and what would you change if you're going to do something. But it doesn't mean you have to act on every suggestion, because there's no shortage of people that'll say, you should do. I mean, if I had a quarter every time somebody said, what you should do, I'd be a very rich person. I mean, everybody's got, and it's because they have their own history and their own experiences and their own way they love games. And they're taking that kind of lens as you look at your game and say, I love it, but I really like games when they do this. So why don't you add this? So it's kind of, sorting through all the suggestions and thoughts to not lose the core of what you've put together, but still being open enough that if there's some smart ideas out there that you take it to heart.
Cool. Let me just jump back to the feed real quick. We got a few more comments. We got Tim saying he's going to back this now. We got some others. Sean says he's going to back it.
Awesome, Tom.
Donna came in. Morgan says that they like the dice. That's good. Someone else said they really like the metal tanks. Well, we got to get this to 45,000, something like that, to see the metal tanks.
45,000, absolutely, yeah.
And
Canadian.
Eric Walker,
Canadian.
Canadian. That's probably like that's
4,000 US.
I thought it was like $50 US, but I'm not good at the exchange rates.
Yeah, it's
So
about 75 cents on the dollar, I think, is the exchange. But yeah.
let's see. Eric Walker here says, I'll help with free marketing. He'll share the Kickstarter to all his feeds.
Awesome.
He likes the theory, and he says it would cause far less damage to friendships than Monopoly. That's good, even though it has solid play. He's hoping you for success. So let me just take one more look over here at the Kickstarter page, and I'll put a link so everybody knows where to go. But where am I? Here we go. So you can search Tanks But No Thanks, and this is what the Kickstarter page looks like. And you have a pretty good first 24 hours or 2 days, however long it's been. So exciting times. You must be really busy.
Yeah, it is some of the advice I was given at the gate was clear the deck. You'll be living, breathing for the first week. Not a lot of sleep because you're just constantly trying to keep those pledges coming, reaching out wherever you can.
And have you found that to be true?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of work, but you know what? It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun.
You're living the dream.
Yeah, you know what? It really is living the dream. And when the joy you have when you see someone, even when I had the prototype, when you see someone else play something you've created, it is such a high. It's indescribable. You know, I've played people and they're like, "Oh, you're the innovator. You're gonna kill me at this game." I lose this game way more than I win. I do, but I don't care. I love it because you know what? That's someone else. I can see their strategies and things that they're employing, and it's
taking on a life of its own outside of you, which is cool. Yeah. All right, James. Well, thanks so much for chatting with me. I know I told you maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but I think we overshot that just a little bit. So I appreciate you spending time, letting the people of the Board Game Club ask you questions and, get to know you and your company. So really cool.
Please join our page. And thanks, Bobby, again for the invitation. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody that tuned in to listen. Again, if any thoughts, questions, please message me. Any support you can provide is appreciated. Any support, even if it's just sharing the link. Thank you. So thanks again.
All right. Thanks a lot, James.
All right, guys.
And wish you best of luck.
Cheers.